Hi there and welcome to the AdVenchr into Tech podcast. We're delighted to bring you the second half of our chat with Manon Dave. Really hope you enjoy.
Ethics in AI seems to be a hot topic. How do you feel about kind of the regulatory space, the governance in that, and kind of the ethical impact of AI?
I think, I have to admit, I'm one of these people, as I've shared about my torrenting stories already. I'm one of these people that just believes that, frankly, the laws will take care of themselves. I know that's a sort of a passive comment of it's not my problem. But honestly, I don't think that for the average person necessarily it is their problem.
Yeah.
Ethics is a different thing, right? I'm talking about legal there. Ethics is, and I guess morality is a different thing. You don't want these tools to be used for any kind of malice.
Yeah.
But it's you can use a hammer to put my wedding picture up, which I haven't put up yet, by the way, since 2018. Or you can smash a window and rob something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the tool is the tool is the tool.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, I'd rather hone in on, okay, if we can create positive examples of using this thing, the negative ones become hyper clear, right? I would argue the case, and I'm gonna avoid getting too political or anything like that. But I would argue the case that the behavioral retargeting algorithms that I was building in the advertising industry with the companies I worked with, Awin and Skimlinks, and MyThings, those guys, essentially in 2007 to 2012, when I was doing that, were using machine learning and let's call it generative AI, because what the thing they were generating was ads on the fly, right?
Sure.
Which we are now just used to, whatever. And pre-EU cookie law, and now we have the EU cookie law. We just accept the cookies anyway. Yeah. Most people, but that was pre-cookie law, and we were using that to just advertise stuff to you, and get you to buy stuff. Arguably, and not even arguably, in my opinion, I could totally debate this, but the very same technology and approach was used by Cambridge Analytica for the Trump elections, right? Yeah. Rightly or wrongly, I have my own views on whether or not I wanted Trump to be in office. Not that I live in America, but the reality is I can't sit here honestly and say wrongly.
Yeah.
It's just the tech.
Yeah.
Anybody could have used the tech, and I think now we got into a stage where, of course, laws, cookie laws, all of that stuff that's there to protect us, right?
Yeah.
And give us the choice.
Yeah.
I think that stuff will emerge for AI and IP and all these other things
Sure.
that come into play. But I think that ultimately, you got to do the right stuff with it to also quite clearly see the wrong stuff with it.
I mean, you touched on it there, kind of IP specifically, and kind of going back to music again with sort of generative AI and kind of, is there truly an original beat anymore? How do you, this is something that obviously it comes up every now and again. You see the high profile court cases, but this stuff must happen every single day regardless.
It does, man.
How do you make sure and how the heck do you protect yourself if you're using Gen AI to create a beat, that you're not then falling foul of some copyright law, some IP protection kind of piece that's happened before music was digitized or before kind of Gen AI came along? Yeah,
it's so hard, man. Honestly, there's it's really hard to kind of give an answer to that, because forget about Gen AI for a second. Ed Sheeran and Dua Lipa and these people are getting dragged through the courts without using AI. It's just inspiration.
Yeah.
Inspiration is derived from a collection of experiences. Those experiences, audio, visual, whatever they might be, ultimately enter some kind of melting pot and come out as something else, right?
Yeah.
And it's similarities, it's difficult to know. It's really difficult to know. So I think we're already struggling with that, and I think the laws make it very difficult. They're very ambiguous, and they make it really difficult. And this is why the whole Ed Sheeran thing was such a big topic, right? With AI now, I think that training models are being pointed to as do you have clean data? Do you have data that is training your models that is not IP protected or protected IP rather?
Yeah.
So that's becoming a big thing. To your point though, arguably, even if it wasn't trained on, let's say you wanted to make you made your own generative AI that was creating instrumentals, right? Pop instrumentals. You used a pop producer, let's say me, to give you 100,000 tracks that you're going to train this model on. And those tracks I can guarantee you are original. Because you train and because you've trained this model on 100,000 Manon Dave tracks, which, to be honest, have been created and derived from my own inspirations and my own understanding of my own human learning of, like, you know, what pop music is.
Sure.
And my own inspirations. Now you've got an engine that might spit something out that might just have the Billie Jean bass line.
Yeah.
Like, even if it wasn't trained on Billie Jean at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so we're just at that place, and it becomes just about being able to, I think, again, the human part of this, the person driving the machine, is super important. You need to know that there is originality and human influence there.
And how do you kind of, you know, this kind of goes back to the sort of regulatory piece to a certain extent. Like, how is that then managed and kind of mitigated as kind of as a musical professional? How do you make sure when you come out and go, hey, that sort of sounds like, well, you know, where's that line drawn before you go, shit, we're gonna have to bin it?
Yeah, I mean, like, there is a legal answer to this, but I'll give you my understanding of it anyways. I think that basically, in what we call, you know, interpolations, there's like sampling, and there's like, you know, I think this idea of interpolation of essentially, there's only so many notes, especially in a key, right? Like, in a key, there's like a handful of notes. If you go out of that handful of notes, you're in a different key.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to keep a song in key, which you ideally want to do, then there's only so many ways that you can sort of play that. Now, obviously, mathematically, it's virtually impossible for you to identically create something else that somebody else has done. But are you likely to kind of repeat the chord structures? Yes. I'm sure there is a hard line, which is probably in the Ed Sheeran case, that spells out if it's these notes, and there's probably a timing difference in when the note's triggered and a chord voicing, you know, line that is drawn. But honestly, this is like, now we're talking about human interpretation of the laws. So I think it's difficult to govern. Artistry creativity is difficult to govern, man.
What is the biggest opportunity in AI right now?
I just think it allows us to focus on things, on more important things. You know, I think that, like, the real impact of AI, the lasting impact, I mean, rather than this disruptive phase that we're in or whatever. Like, I think the lasting impact is going to be, it just takes care of stuff that we shouldn't really be doing anymore. Not that we're, you know, not in an arrogant way, but it's just like, we don't need to do that because we can think about other bigger challenges. You know, and I think that's kind of where we're at.
You know, it's funny, you spoke about kind of that moving the start point later in kind of your start point later in the process, and kind of even sort of the day-to-day kind of in that recruitment world. I think when you look at how we use AI internally, that really resonates. Kind of, you just realize that a lot of the manual stuff that you started doing kind of 10, 15 years ago when I started, that doesn't exist anymore. And it's kind of, you're now at the point where, whether it's kind of writing specs, job ads, you know, doing those manual searches and things like that, you don't realize you're doing it. You just click of a button and it's done.
It's done,
And the time that saves, and the ability to then run concurrent things kind of all at once. This is probably how you do everything everywhere all at once.
Trust me, like, that's what excites me. I'm like, now, okay, cool, yes, I am a bit stretched thin. Oh man, I do have 2 kids and, like, do need to divide my time. But what about if I could automate that thing? And I think that's kind of where, you know, where I really enjoy looking at.
I've just got this vision of you trying to build an automated feeding system for your kids, flinging carrots across the room.
Oh my god, my wife would have something to say about that.
I was going to actually ask, where in your day to day do you actually use AI? Like, specific examples outside of obviously your normal work.
Yeah.
Like in day to day life, everyday life.
I think, like, for me, I consider to be, let's say, creative leaning. Like, obviously I've been building products, and there's a lot more kind of other practical skills that go into all of that stuff. But I've always said that I'm creative leaning. However, you know, just like anybody, you get sort of writer's block, or you get like, let's say, brain fog or whatever. Yeah. And it's not always a perfect time to, like, spew creative output, right? And so, like, I think that's kind of where it's been great. It's sort of been like a sounding board. So I use ChatGPT, for example. If I'm, like, thinking about, I know I've got a good idea. There's a concept, whether it's a product concept or whether it's a deck that I need to put together or whatever, and I know sort of the touch points that I want to talk about. Let's just, for argument's sake, it's a talk about all of my background or whatever. Then I want to talk about technology and music and education, and I want the crux of this talk to be about, you know, how, you know, adopting technology early allows us to help others understand it. As an example, I do put that into Chat GPT today, regularly, a couple of times a week if I'm working on a project like that, and I just ask it to just throw out ideas. Honestly, I just say, give me 5 different structures, and for each structure, no more than 5 bullet points of ways that I could go through this narrative and give examples on how I might do that, specific to each industry, whatever, right? And like, you can be very, very specific, and it will just chuck out stuff. And I don't think I've ever copied and pasted, not yet anyway. It might get better, and I might just end up doing that. It'll save me even more time. But for now, I'm like using it as a great thought starter to say like, oh yeah, I didn't really think of it that way. That now you've unblocked me a little bit. You know, it might not be immediate, but like later on, then I can't have text on slides because I just like I scramble. You know what I mean? Like so I can't read text from slides. If there's text there, I'll start reading. So I prefer just like nice images, maybe 1 or 2 lines of text if I need it. But so I've been using Midjourney to then create some of those slides. If I can't find an image on Google, or if I don't have the time to create a diagram, whatever, I've started to use those tools to then do that. So very practically, you know, I've been using them, not just noodling around.
It's funny that kind of that sort of creative process, you know, the immediate thought when you think of kind of AI in the creative industry, you think, oh, it's going to replace it. But actually what it's doing is allowing you to unlock and arguably giving access to that kind of creative process to a lot more people, and kind of furthering the discipline rather than kind of hindering it.
Yeah. Like I hate making slides. You know, people say this to me all the time. Like, I don't mind doing the talk, but I just hate making slides. I don't have time to do it. Cool. You don't need to really make the slides anymore.
Yeah.
You know, so that's how I think about it.
There's another follow-up I had on that note, which was I guess obviously you've spoken about ChatGPT and like how you're using it day to day. What's the best way that we can bring everyone on the AI journey? Like, what would your advice be to people who aren't already in AI, who are like, just say like the common person, me for example? Like, how do you increase that knowledge of AI in an easy way or an easily digestible way?
So I think one of the things is like the Mind Valley stuff is great, right? Obviously it's completely free. Tomorrow's AI, I mean, we did one in person. Tomorrow's one's a Zoom call. I think you can just find it on mindvalley.com or whatever. But it's, you know, the AI Summit, like, you know, opening up these more kind of layman's approach, layman's perspective, I guess, talk, seminars, webinars, whatever. Like, there are companies that are doing them, right? So which is great. But I think, like, generally speaking, you know, if you're looking for sources of like knowledge or inspiration or whatever, strangely, Twitter has become, or X, or whatever the hell it's, you know, has become like a great place for this. Like, to stick any of those hashtags in, generative AI, whatever, you're just going to see stuff that you wouldn't even believe is made with AI, right? And I think that it's just about sparking the interest. For some people, it's going to be about how it can impact the way in which you assemble a business deck. For other people, it's going to be how, you know, I'm a photographer, but I've always wanted to be a filmmaker. You can literally take a picture you've taken, stick it in Runway ML. Gen 2 is the engine if anybody wants to do it, and it will just create motion in your picture. What?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it would look weird at first. You can do it 3 or 4 times and you get something you like. So I think play is the best way to learn now, honestly.
How do you think, so kind of the provenance of images and things like that? Because obviously, you know, I don't think it's a new thought process that, you know, social media is full of people faking kind of their own capabilities, their own wealth and all this sort of stuff.
I mean, half the stuff you read was wrong.
Yeah. But how do we kind of protect ourselves from, and kind of the kind of provenance of around imagery, around stories, fake news, all this kind of stuff?
I think that so there are like, the good news is I think some of the big companies are accelerating work in that area.
Yeah.
So like, yes, there's a bunch of stuff in the press about like, you're not going to be able to differentiate, you know, truth from, you know, from lies or whatever. But I think Google already announced it, if I'm not mistaken, when they had their last summit. They talked about this kind of unique watermarking approach. Yeah. I've been working on something with Framestore as well, like, you know, which sort of looks at that authenticity on X or Twitter. You know, I think for a while now, if somebody posts something which is arguably not true, there is a little, I don't know if you guys have seen it, there's a disclaimer kind of like, this may not be accurate, you should also read this article or whatever. Or this refers to this thing that happened, but actually it may not have been in this way. Like, so you can see AI protecting us from AI. Like this is somebody didn't sit there and write that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is machine learning working to protect us from falsehoods. So I think it's happening. It will happen slowly. It will move at the same pace AI does, and I think that's the part that people sometimes forget.
Awesome. So like our final segment is kind of more lighthearted.
Yeah.
Rather than being too serious. And given your kind of musical background, I've got a few kind of music related ones at early doors.
I embarrassed myself.
A little bit.
Backstreet Boys is the answer to every question.
I guess first part, what's your favourite genre of music?
I had like a really bad babysitter who would just play explicit lyrics hip hop from since I was age 8. So hip hop music.
Hip hop music,
Yeah,
right?
not like not like this auto-tuned mumble rap.
Brings me nicely to the next part then. Favourite hip hop artist?
So okay, cool. My favorite rapper, which is maybe not such a widely known one today, is a guy named Pharoah Monch. He's from Queens, New York.
Okay.
I just heard him originally on this like Mos Def record called Oh No. So he was like my favorite, but I would have to say it's difficult to like say one person, right? So Pharoah Monch, this guy called Black Thought from The Roots,
This is a proper hip hop.
Yeah, it's a lesson.
Like,
you know what I mean? Like, and then of course you have like the Notorious B.I.G.'s and so on and so forth. So I'd say those guys for sure.
What about current hip hop?
Current hip hop, I like this guy called Corday. I think he's really talented. Mostly American guys, as you can tell.
Yeah.
It would be a bad thing if I didn't say that by far my favorite UK rapper is Shay Lingo, not because I made his music, but like I just think like a big thing that attracted me to Shay was because just lyrically, for me hip hop's about lyrics, and he's definitely somebody who I think can compete with anybody either side of the pond. So yeah, I'd say those guys today.
I'm gonna ask this in two ways. So I'm gonna ask your favorite track in general. Doesn't have to be. Across all music, across all brands. Your favorite track and your favorite current track.
Okay, so my favorite track across. I mean, look, I mentioned it earlier, right? Like, I think I've watched probably about 300 videos on the creation of Billie Jean because it just fascinates me. Of like, it's almost like, how can a song be so perfect in every way, right? Bass line, the drums, the melody, everything. So undoubtedly that. And then would you say the second one was what?
Current.
Best current track.
Yeah.
It's not like current, but more recent, let's say, is what is that? The Mark Ronson Bruno Mars song. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mark Ronson Bruno Mars.
Yeah, it's like
I think I know what you're talking about. I can't think of the name.
Yeah. It's that one. What was it called? Can't believe.
To be fair, we all have Spotify. I could literally.
Yeah, we could just pull it up. Bruno.
Yeah, my knowledge.
And you know what made me appreciate it is my son Jay, and he just rinses. He just plays it all the time, and I'm like, this is a damn good song, man.
You know that
Bruno Mars and
Mark Ronson.
You know the influence you have on your kids' music content taste, and like me and Evie started.
Are you talking about Uptown Funk?
Uptown Funk, yeah.
Oh, I've heard that. I've been to a wedding in the last 5 years.
You can, yeah, exactly. But like, I know that it's like, people are tired of it, whatever. But I think it has that Billie Jean thing. It's just there's not a bad part of the song, but as much as you love it or hate it.
One I nearly forgot.
Yeah.
Favorite producer.
Timbaland.
Yeah,
hands down. I mean, it's just so influenced by like I was one of those guys the idiots that Will was talking about, like, oh, you just want to be an artist. I just wanted to have a unique sound like Timbaland always. But now, thankfully, I get a chance to. He uses a lot of the products that we built. So like, it's been really cool seeing how he does what he does.
So you've met Timbaland?
Yeah, a couple of times, and like,
nice.
He is definitely one of those people who like you just look at and you're just like. Yeah,
I
you're an
remember
anomaly.
Shock
You're an
Value
anomaly.
album that he brought out,
crazy.
And it just like I think, and then you start to go down the rabbit hole and you look at like the back catalogue of stuff that he's worked on.
Bonkers,
and
ridiculous.
It's just like how you think you're busy and you're like, Jesus, this guy has just done everything.
Bonkers, and it's the reinvention. That's the part that I like. That's the part that fascinates me about a lot of these people, like the hip hop guys and people, especially since hip hop has almost become pop music in terms of popular culture. You can see the transition, the fact that those guys have been building from. Early 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, and every few years they completely reinvent.
Hip hop's probably like the most like that, where like it's what have you done for me recently.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
haven't done anything, you're out.
You're out.
Like
Yeah,
less,
yeah.
like even
It's
more than most of,
competitive.
yeah,
It's
most
actually
of most of the
competitive,
genres.
which is amazing. That's what I love about it. Yeah.
I've got a couple more on music then.
Go on.
Then we're gonna finish it off. Favorite artist person to watch live?
Oh, actually, the best. All right, so actually, the two answers to that. The best concert I ever went to, just in terms of like the energy, right, and just it was bonkers, was the Jay-Z Kanye concert at the O2
Watch the
Arena.
Throne.
Watch the Throne.
Yeah.
Insane. 2 stages.
Yeah.
It was.
They changed how like they cut
Concerts
at
went
that
on.
time how concerts were
Yeah.
done.
That was. I've never been to a concert with that energy. And Kings of Leon actually at the O2 was a close second. Like that was crazy when they had their big record. I don't remember what the song was called. But the best showmanship, hands down, that I've seen, and unfortunately I had tickets for Michael Jackson's tour before he died because I thought that was going to be nuts, right, to be able to see him live, but was Justin Timberlake.
Really interesting.
Honestly, his show, like, you know, again, it's dancers, it's like live musicians. You can tell that he's singing everything.
Yeah.
You can tell they're playing everything. And like, obviously, I've never tried to do it apart from at weddings, but like to dance and sing and do all that stuff at the same, you know, it's pretty amazing. Like it's like proper artistry, man. So yeah.
A couple more on the music thing then. So I'll make you choose. It's just gonna be an options thing. Biggie or Tupac?
Biggie.
Interesting. And then more current, J. Cole, Kendrick, or Drake?
Personal taste, J. Cole.
Come on.
Yeah.
Cool. Last couple of questions just on this one. We asked this for everyone. One is best piece of advice you've ever been given.
I think that personally, it has to be what I said, you know, from my granddad, which is, you know, stop trying to predict the path forward. You can only connect the dots backwards. Like you have to learn from hindsight, and I think that's probably the best piece of advice I can say I've been given.
And I guess conversely, which makes perfect sense, but it probably might be the same. What's the best piece of advice you've ever given someone?
I tried to give that piece of advice a lot. I can't say that it lands, but I think that I think the best piece of advice that I've given, that I've thankfully seen work and land, you know, a few times is you know, it's a common saying, you know, the whole build it and they will come. But I think that we can get in our heads a lot as creatives, and as business people, startup founders, all of that stuff. And I just really genuinely believe that, like, if you make something with sincerity and you think about the customer, then they will inform you of all the things they hate about it. That's a prerequisite. But if they can enjoy the experience of using it that first time, or they can see the quality and the effort put in, I think that buys you all the time in the world to actually deliver. So I think, yeah, just build it, just make it, and worry about what happens with it later.
Awesome. Yeah. Our last one, which is our venture question, which we ask everyone. If you had unlimited money, so money's not an issue, what is the one thing, one business or one problem that you would try to solve? Business you would try to create, or problem you would try to solve?
Yeah, I think for me, I've been thinking about that a lot recently, actually. And I think that, and a lot of the questions you asked, you know, early on, Ben, is like, why is education so important or whatever? And I think it's because I had to kind of carve my own learning path and journey through things that I just enjoyed and didn't really understand why I couldn't do those things in my educational journey, right? Mm-hmm. Or I had to like go about it a different way, or I had to almost get in trouble for not doing other stuff which I didn't find that relevant. And I think that if I had an unlimited amount of funds, I think the problem I would really try and solve, which I do believe will be solved, but it will just take forever and it will already be outdated when it is delivered, is personalized, genuinely personalized education for people, and just trying to make sure that folks unravel, I think, these, like, the spectrum of talents and interests that they have much earlier in education. Yeah,
I've always kind of said that kind of if everyone everywhere had all of the same opportunities afforded to everyone, and everyone had the opportunity to try all these different things, you probably have people running the 100 meters in 5 seconds. You have the solution to cancer 4 times over. All these kind of things, because that talent clearly exists, but it's whether everyone has the ability to get access to the platform to be able to kind of make the most of it.
I had the same conversation last night about the whole, like, it started as a football conversation about, you know, Ronaldo, Messi sort of situation, but then we sort of got down that rabbit hole of, like, Yeah, but dude, like like this, you're telling me between China, India, and like the whole of
I know, right?
Africa, like Ronaldo is the best player, or Messi is the best player in the world ever that we found.
Yeah,
That's actually the answer.
exactly,
Yeah,
right?
You know what I mean,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's the one we found.
Yeah.
Like, you know, people. I hear the stories that like Rio Ferdinand, all these people tell about Ravel Morrison, the former Man United footballer, and like Fergie, and like, you know, these people have seen top talent. Like, you know, Jesse Lingard gets stick, right?
Yeah.
Like for not performing for Nottingham Forest, or whatever. You stick him in with any like lower league football team, and he'll run rings around you.
Totally.
Like,
Yeah.
he'll destroy you. You know what I mean? And so he's the best of the best of the best, the most elite footballer you
Yeah.
can get in some ways. So I just genuinely believe that, like, you know, there are folks who maybe have already been in the system, or not at all in the system.
Yeah.
That are those Ronaldos or Messis or Timberlands or Drakes or whatever,
Yeah,
you know, like
yeah.
that
Yeah.
just haven't really been. They haven't unraveled that. You know, I think so. That's to do that. That would be. I mean, that's yeah. That's
I
that's an
guess it's a
ultimate
little
challenge.
bit. It's kind of what initially attracted me to kind of Mind Valley, because I knew about them a little bit before, after like Vishen's book.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess a little bit like that. They're trying to create personalized learning. I guess the only difference is it's more available to like an older generation. Where if that was available, if that was a learning platform that kids from like
Yeah.
age 3 kind of went with, and it wasn't this prescriptive thing where you got to learn 13 different things.
Yeah.
5 or probably 10 of which you don't care about, but
Yeah,
3
yeah.
you really like.
Yeah, yeah.
It would make it so much better. People would actually follow their passion.
God, I remember learning geography and thinking, what am I ever doing with this?
Imagine where in life has like learning different types of mountains helped you?
Longshore drift, man, that was the one.
No, but I think like it is, but that like look, I still believe that all of those things like pique our interest, right?
Yeah.
So that like if you maybe the mountains things, you know, there are people I know that are like love going skiing or like, you know, abseiling and all that stuff. Like it's not really my bag, but that's what they do. But I think that's the key thing. It's like the spectrum isn't wide enough of stuff that we're allowing exposing people to. No, I didn't learn anything about, you know, music production or any kind of electronic or computer based music making until I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at the end of my high school life.
Yeah.
That is outrageous to think that, right? Like, you know, the tools existed,
Yeah.
just nobody taught it.
Getting into like an existential debate where it's like, why are we here? So like, obviously a lot of people just like, just get a job, pay bills, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then
No,
That's what
it
changes.
is. It's called the education system for a reason.
Yeah.
But I think that like that's like that's the kind of thing that if we could, you know, tackle that. Like I'm like my dad is literally. I can feel him texting me right now, going, "Where's the spreadsheet? I need to do your taxes." I don't know how to. I can't do it. Like I'm just not educated, and even if I was educated, I'm too fearful of it because I haven't tried and failed and whatever enough times to do it.
Yeah.
I need somebody else to help me.
There's so many things like that though.
Yeah.
Kind of the taxis thing. Like there's stuff that you need when you're adulting that kind of you don't get taught.
Yeah.
You know, like, even trying to work out which bin goes out on which day, man. They should have a thing for that.
You get taught nothing about adulting. None about
that is
mortgages,
actually-
opening
yeah.
a bank account. Nothing gets taught.
No, none of that. So yeah, anyway, that's what I think I'd tackle.
Amazing. Well, look, thanks very much for your time today.
Thank you guys, man.
It's been a pleasure, and yeah, I know that we'll catch up very soon.
Learned a lot.
Sweet. Can I get a job?
No.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Adventure into Tech podcast. Please like, share and subscribe and let us know what you thought in the comments.